Welcome to Obsessed with Success, starring Russell Morgan.
Welcome back to Obsessed with Success with Russell Morgan. Today we're joined by Alan Vaitzman, an associate at Morgan Legal Group who focuses on probate and estate litigation. I'm Lisa Mosbey, your host, and today we're talking about the cost of speed and when moving fast starts working against a law firm instead of helping it. Alan, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening. How are you?
I'm well. And Alan, at what point does speed stop being an advantage and start creating problems inside of a firm?
Speed is a very important thing, not only to the employees working at the firm and the attorneys and all the staff, but also to the client. There's a lot of times where clients come to me or come to us with tasks that they believe are urgent. Some of them truly are, some of them truly aren't. But where speed tends to start hurting you versus helping you is when things get done quickly without an analysis, and when things aren't done to the best levels that they can be. Of course, naturally, when anything is done fast, it can be done fast and right, or it can be done fast with a few sacrifices. The toughest part is the former rather than the latter, is to do something correctly, professionally, and quickly. Where speed starts to hurt is when a lot of different things get done quickly and in pieces, but nothing gets done as a whole fast. So a lot of the times I see this, especially in my practice, is when it comes to administration and probate petitions, for example. A petition is just a petition, but along with these petitions, there's a lot of other supporting documents, affidavit of assets and liabilities, heirship affidavits. And a lot of the times I see certain files get touched a little bit, and then nothing is really fully completed all at once at a decent speed. People come back later to it, they put additions, so on and so forth. So what I tell the associates that I manage and direct is, look, pay attention to one thing at a time, finish that to completion as quickly as you possibly can, and then move on to the next task. Don't get overwhelmed throughout the day because a million emails will come into your inbox. I wake up to about 50 emails. So don't get overwhelmed with everybody trying to scream and all the noise. Pay attention to your tasks, finish them one at a time, and chip away at that block that is your task list for the day. Don't rush, don't do bits and pieces of tasks. Hit one thing at a time to completion, competently and quickly, and then move on. That's essentially the main problem that I see with speed, is that when everything is done in bits and pieces, at the end of the day, nothing gets done to completion for the client, and the client is sitting there and waiting essentially for an answer or for a document to sign, things of that nature. So essentially, speed is all fine and dandy. It's great, but it needs to be done structurally and with control. Speed is a controlled chaos, is the way that I would put it. It's great when you have control of it, but when speed gets away from you, it can lead to results that are rather unfavorable.
The thought that comes to mind for me is even the best juggler drops a ball every once in a while. So focus on what you're doing and what's at hand.
100%.
Alan, what kinds of decisions tend to get rushed at firms? What things pick up momentum, and why do those decisions carry more weight than they seem to at the time?
So funny enough, these decisions that you are referring to are usually not the biggest decisions at all. It's usually, instead of, for example, doing an investigation for where a person lives for service, or not calling a bank to see how much in funds are at this institution. And these little decisions, these little kind of cutting corner attitude, will result in many ripples down the line, and these ripples are negative ripples. What I mean by this is the following. If somebody doesn't get served at the appropriate address, now the client's case is kicked a month. If you as an attorney do not do your primitive investigation on an estate matter and the judge asks you a certain question about how much is in the estate and you don't answer it, the judge will send you back out to do your investigation, and now the case is kicked for another month. These types of decisions and this cutting corner attitude that I see a lot of, not the colleagues at Morgan Legal, but the colleagues that I used to work with, especially in other firms and other enterprises, this leads to a lot of client negative feedback. The client is asking, why is I hired you 7 months ago and the case went nowhere. Now we're continuously going back to court. You're charging my retainer and nothing is getting done. This can all be resolved many of the times. It's just that the attorneys need to do their due diligence. They need to do their due diligence quickly and competently. But again, at the end of the day, it needs to be controlled. It cannot be simply a laissez-faire attitude in terms of, oh, I'll get it done later or I'll do it the night before. Because what happens is the night before, when you go and you do your investigation, you'll realize that there's a lot more steps and a lot more of an investigation that you need to get done prior to your appearance tomorrow. So speed is all great. Speed is all great, but it needs to, and I know I'm beating a dead horse here as well. It needs to be controlled. Everything needs to have a balance. But at the end of the day, the attorneys, if you're experienced enough, you will know how long something should take, and if it takes you longer or shorter, you can already start ascertaining whether you may think that there is a problem or not. If something that regularly takes you 3 hours now took you 30 minutes, probably you missed something. If something that takes you 20 minutes is now taking you 4 hours, you may be making a certain problem into an actual problem when it does not need to be one. A lot of the times I see this in terms of personal effects in an estate, where, for example, today I was in court and the judge asked a party as to whether or not they can settle. And one of the attorneys says that they would love to settle, but they're disputing jewelry. It was 3 rings and a bracelet that was in dispute of probably a $750,000 estate. These things can be resolved in 2 seconds if both competent attorneys can come to the table and talk to their client and say, we don't need to do this now. We can do this later. Let's figure out who's going to be the fiduciary and get the estate moving. These are things that can actually happen with speed if people are also reasonable. So there's a lot of factors that can go into play when it comes to how speed can affect your practice and how it can affect the result of your client's case. And it's a very important factor to keep in mind and to employ it accordingly.
That was a great analogy that you used, and it makes me wonder, why do firms often realize the cost of speed only after the damage has already been done? How can they lose sight of this or become unaware that it's actually affecting the bottom line?
So a lot of the times where I see this occur is when the person or the firm or the attorney or whoever it may be is doing the same thing over and over and over again. Most likely when a hiccup occurs, it's not the first time. It's usually something was rushed that already occurred in another case, then it was rushed again and it occurred again, and now this is becoming a common practice for this individual firm. A lot of the times the overhead doesn't see the ramifications of their decisions until after the decision has already been made. Specifically, I would point to hiring bad people and not firing fast enough. So when overhead hires employees that become part of the group, that become part of the team, and they are either not pulling their weight or dragging people down, the ramifications only come later down the line. That is why when you are in management, when you are at a director level or at a hiring and firing position, it's very important to figure out who's good for your team, keep them, figure out who's bad for your team, and let them respectfully walk away. One of the biggest things I see hindering not only a department but a firm are bad team players. Bad team players will shift the morale of everybody around them into something that is so negative and so toxic that it not only affects the environment in which you are employed, but it will affect your work product. If you don't want to be there, if you don't want to be at your job, your work product will show for it. It'll be sped up, it'll be uncontrolled, it will be not fully thought through, and it will show. It will definitely show. So a lot of the times that the damage already, once the damage already occurs, the decision was probably already made a few days or a few weeks back. And this is one of the biggest things where when new people are coming onto my team, I try to read the room. I try to see what kind of not only employee that they are, a team member, what kind of person they are. What kind of person you are will translate into the type of work that you do and who you associate with. So these sort of decisions will absolutely ripple into something that could have been smaller, could have been fixed quickly, into something that spirals and affects the entire group.
Alan, when firms tend to run fast in certain areas, what parts of a firm tend to absorb the hidden costs of moving forward, even when outward results still look strong?
So it depends on how you define cost. If you're defining cost in terms of simply a monetary number, then of course the firm, it absorbs that cost, and the billing and the finance department absorb that cost. But if you're defining cost as stress and pleasure of doing your job, I will say that speed really affects the support level individuals and the support group, because at the end of the day, whenever problems occur or whenever there is a fire, as we call it, the support team really has to step up and ramp up everything they're doing to try and put out that flame. I see this happen all the time in terms of when attorneys try to take shortcuts in what they do, in serving documents, in replying to affirmations, where they then later have to be a helicopter boss, quasi boss, over their paralegal to make sure that their paralegal is now trying to fix their mistake, trying to fix the flame that they themselves created. I see this for paralegals. I see this for mail clerks. I see this for front desk people. They are the face of the firm. They are the first people to talk to the clients. They are the first people to take complaints from the clients. They are essentially the barrier between the outside world and the attorneys that they work for. This is really a top down issue. So in my opinion, the grunt of all of the affects and the effects of the decision making and of the workflow really get boiled down to the support level staff that are now trying to scramble and do their absolute best to try to fix the flame that others may or may not have created.
Yeah, what I'm hearing you say is constant urgency tends to reshape how leaders think and decide and prioritize over time. So, my question is, what happens when speed becomes the default operating condition instead of a deliberate choice?
When speed becomes the constant rather than the outlier, when everything is urgent, nothing is really urgent at all. That just now becomes the default tempo of the way that you practice. So if you were practicing at a certain level and you produced a certain quality of work product that your clients used to love and appreciate, and then you ramp up the speed, this is now your speed. Now it is not a priority of whether or not a client, needs a saving from eviction, or a house is about to go into foreclosure, those take priority over some other files that may kind of be just floaters, and that the fact that they don't really need anything urgently done at the current moment. There is no fire there. But if you're going to treat everything as a fire, nothing is really a fire at all. So ramping up the speed also, I would say, gives you an artificial illusion of the way that the firm operates. Doing something fast as a priority or as an urgency is what it is. It's done fast because it is an urgency and a priority. It should not be your regular way of doing work. Your regular way of doing work should be calm, cool, and collective. You should research the topics that you're working on. You should research the cases that opposing counsel cites. This all takes time. So if you're going to be rushing everything and anything, nothing becomes a priority at all. None of your clients' flames, fires, or urgencies are what they are. It's just another file. So when you match your urgent speed with your regular speed, that's your new speed. That's your normal tempo for the work product output of your department, of your firm, and if you're a sole practitioner, of yourself.
I think it's tough to live in that space of constantly being, under the gun, or, needing to put out fires all the time, or having that sensation in our body. It doesn't allow us to think and be calm for a moment, so that we can process and answer the questions at hand. So here's my final question. Here's where I'd like to wrap this up today, Alan. How can founders tell the difference between healthy momentum and speed that's quietly undermining the firm?
My honest opinion is listen to your clients. Listen to the feedback that your clients are giving you, your firm, and your attorneys. And the other thing that I've noticed is, as much as people really like to leave bad reviews when they are unhappy, clients will a lot of the times leave you a very good review when they are proud of what you are doing, and if what you are doing falls in line with their desires. They may not do it publicly, but they will give you compliments and reassurances internally through emails, over the phone. Listen to the people that retain you. This is the best way to measure whether or not your current momentum is a good one, or do you need to speed things up. And many of the times, for some reason, entrepreneurs don't like to do this, but slow things down. There's a lot of the times where a firm or a department is growing way too big, way too fast, and it doesn't really need to be the case. Your clients are suffering, your work product is suffering. Especially if you're in litigation, you have to answer to judges and the court. Sometimes slowing things down will push you to heights that are unimaginable, that you would not otherwise be able to achieve if you speed things up. That is essentially the difference between a healthy momentum and a speed that is hindering you. It's listen to the people that are consuming your product. Listen to the court. Listen to the court clerks. Listen to your clients. All of this information entangled into one observation will absolutely give you key indicators of whether or not the speed that you're working at is a good speed, is a comfortable speed, and if it is a healthy speed, or whether or not you need to ramp up or slow down.
Thank you, Alan. And that's it for today's episode of Obsessed with Success with the Morgan Legal Group. To learn more or get assistance, you may contact Morgan Legal Group 24/7 at 888-LAW-1315 on all social media platforms at Morgan Legal NY, and their website, morganlegalny.com. Thank you so much for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and come back next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.